There are moments in a man's life when everything comes together, an epiphany, an enlightenment. I had one recently, but I must give you some background first. I was at a zoo in Utah. As I was walking through it, there was a man standing close to me, and I heard him say, "Kralon." I stopped and looked at him, and he repeated the same word, "Kralon." And I watched him to understand what it was that he was saying. And I realized that he was speaking to a young boy. For he said, "Kralon, look them dinosaur." He said, "Krylon, look them dinosaur." You see, the zoo had animatronic dinosaurs in various places. And he was speaking to his son, who he had named Krylon. It is odd that in a place like the United States of America, which has always been run and ruled by white people, that there is an entire class of white people who still haven't caught up. And it makes one think to himself, what's the holdup? You're invited. Come along, brother. Later in the afternoon, as I was walking around the zoo with my family, there was a man with Krylon's father who yelled out, "Look! They got giraffe!" Yes, he said giraffe. I was with my young daughter in the monkey caves. They were glassed, of course, and the monkeys were inside them. And I saw this same man, Krylon's father, sitting in a dark corner, crouched on the ground, holding his face in his hands, and I believe he was weeping. And I went to him and I said, "What's wrong, my friend? May I help you?" And he looked up at me and he said, "I'm afraid." And I said, "Are you afraid of the dinosaurs?" And he said, "No, I'm afraid of them monkeys." And I said, "Come outside and let's get some fresh air, friend." And we sat on a bench together, and he told me a story. He told me that he and his cousin were in the woods in Ohio, and they were bow hunting for turkeys. 'Cause you know that's what those people do. And on this same day that they were hunting, there was a deranged man who owned a game preserve. And he let all the animals loose, unlocked their cages, opened the fences, and freed them. Well, unbeknownst to this man and his cousin, one of the animals was a gorilla. Large male silverback gorilla. And they had the misfortune to encounter this gorilla. And the gorilla had torn off his cousin's leg. Gnawed it clean off, he said. It was awful. And Krylon's father was helpless. For the gorilla turned to him and stripped him of his clothes and had his way with him. And ever since then, he's never been able to be near monkeys, or any simian creature for that matter. And I understood. And this is the part where the story comes full circle. I was at the local airport to pick up my wife. As I waited for her on the observation deck, I realized her plane was late and I went inside. I poked my head into the bar, which was also a restaurant. There was a man at the microphone and a bald man with a goatee on the piano. You ever notice that you never see a bald man without a goatee? As if to say, damn you, world. Yeah, I can grow hair. But nonetheless, there was a man entertaining the crowd. It was in the middle of the day. And he was singing songs, old standards, like Mac the Knife, yeah! Last weekend, friends, I was sitting by my pool. I was resting my tired dogs in my hot tub when I realized I heard a young lady. I heard some sadness. I heard some crying. It was my son's girlfriend, Brittaphany. Brittaphany was sad, and she told me that she'd gotten in a fight with my son. I said, hey, Brittaphany, why don't you take a load of sadness and sorrow off and slip into the spa with me? So she did. And the next thing you knew, I had her on the pool deck. She was 19, so it was okay. I was on the pool deck with Brittaphany making sweet love with steam rising off my back, and I looked up at the balcony and I saw my son, Caden. Yes, my wife gave him that name. But old Caden was up there and he was looking down, shaking his head and crying. And I gave him a wink. And I said, finders keepers, losers weepers, yeah! And then this man commenced to sing more songs like, Chicago, Chicago, if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. Chicago, yeah! Hey, folks. Next Tuesday, I'll be down at Alberto's Cantina in downtown Monterey. I'll be there around 1:25 in the afternoon. It's the happiest time of the day. They'll be serving dollar shots and bowls of different colored jellos. Then on Thursday, I'll be down at the Kilton Sword, and I think I'll be singing some Frank Sinatra songs. Ho! Hey, I was down in Solvang last weekend, and this is where the story congeals. I was in Solvang, performing at old Mother Hubbard's cupboard. And I was doing a a tribute to Barry Manilow at the Copacabana. Hey! By the way, folks, my name is Kirk LaTerrene. I hope you're enjoying my musical stylings here at the airport bar. You folks enjoying your sand dabs and lasagna? I bet they're delicious. Well, I was performing some Barry Manilow tunes. Oh! Then afterward, I was sitting at the bar and a man came up to me with one leg. And he said, I really enjoyed your songs, and they got my wife quite aroused, and I don't mean to intrude, but do you mind making love to my wife while I watch? And I thought, Kirk loves the ladies, and the ladies love Kirk! Yeah! So I went back to the motel room with this one-legged man. And the strangest thing he requested of me was this. He said, hey, Kirk, would you put on this gorilla suit while you make love to my wife? And I thought, what the heck? I've never been a gorilla. So I put it on. It was quite soft and furry. And it had a hole where you know what goes. Hey! And while I was making sweet love to this one-legged man's wife, he was jumping up and down, making a racket, 'cause he was wearing one of those wooden Dutch clog shoes, and it was clickety-clacking on the parquet floor of that motel. But I didn't mind, 'cause I was knee-deep in pineapple and butter cookies. 'Cause it's solving. And when I was about to do my business with my jizness, his wife said to me, and I realized she was a deaf lady and she couldn't hear. So I started making wild gorilla noises, and this made the one-legged man jump up and down even more, clickety-clacking on his Dutch wooden shoe. Ho! After everything was said and done, this man and I went outside to have a smoke. And he told me that the only way for him to get aroused is if he watched a man in a gorilla suit making love, because he was the cousin in the woods with Krylon's father, who had his leg torn off by a gorilla. And that is when I realized that life was strange. And we're all together in this. We're all part of the same loving, gorilla sodomizing rainbow.